What's up, guys? Chris from the Review Cave here, and today I'm here with my good friend Shonen Ouji. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did.
And today we are going to be doing a tier list video ranking every single arc in the My Hero Academia series, including the manga. So when we discuss it, there will be a couple of manga spoilers. But regardless, for this particular video, we'll be looking at every single arc and debating on which tier they will be in. And Uji, would you like to introduce yourself and what your channel is about?
Yeah, so hello, name's Shonen Ouji. If you haven't seen me before, I do One Piece and Dr. Stone content. I do have a couple of My Hero videos on my channel. If you go ahead and peek, you can find them. I don't get to talk nearly enough about My Hero, so I'm excited for the tier list.
Alright, so we're going to try and keep this thing around an hour, hopefully, if our thoughts don't escape us. And we'll be going each arc one by one, giving our own thoughts on why it is in a particular tier, and then we'll decide on what the tier will be. So why not we just get started? And what better way than the origin arc of My Hero Academia, the very first arc of the story. So, in my honest opinion, I really think that this is more of like a C tier arc, considering that it starts off relatively slow, even though it gives us a pretty decent introduction to the world of MHA and quirks. It doesn't really do all too much to captivate everyone right off the bat.
When does this one technically end?
I think this is all in the first volume. I think it's like the first like five to seven chapters, I believe.
Okay.
Because it covers, I think it covers everything up until Deku, up until the entrance exams.
Yeah, right. I'll say this. I think I agree with C tier. I just want to say something quick about the first chapter.
Sure.
You can usually judge, at least the Shonen Jump series, you can usually judge them by their first chapter. My Hero's in an interesting position where the first chapter is kind of underwhelming in the sense that it does a really good job of setting the framework, but it's also very, like, I guess low stake or kind of basic. And I guess that's true for the series as a whole, is it's deep, but it can also be, like, at its surface kind of basic, like stereotypical shonen, if that makes sense.
No, that makes complete sense, and it is somewhat mediocre in a sense, considering that a lot of other Shonen Jump titles tend to start off with like a bang with their first chapter, whether it be the protagonist gaining their power and beating a bad guy, or just giving us some cool action scene to give us a brief idea of what we could see in the entirety of the series.
Right.
In the first chapter is literally just Deku being picked on, us getting introduced to the idea of heroes and quirks, and Bakugou basically being a dick for the first chapter.
Right, exactly.
But this is honestly, I think practically almost everyone will agree that the first arc of the series is honestly one of its weakest.
Yeah, again, I think it does a really good job of setting the framework, which some series could actually learn from. Sometimes you watch the first episode and you're like, what is this even about? My Hero does a great job of like presenting to you what the series is about, because the first line, not all men are born equal, or not everyone is born equal, it's what the whole series is about, and it's what it's going to continue to be about. But other than that, like, it's kind of just a boring chapter to read.
Yeah, but C tier for the first arc of My Hero Academia. The second arc, well, technically it's the second and third arc as one, the entrance exam and the UA training mission, essentially, with Bakugou versus Deku. Now, I think this is also considered more or less a C tier arc, in my opinion, probably at the top of C tier, considering that despite having like I said, Deku versus Bakugou, we don't really get to see much of 1A at all. The only real highlights are Deku versus Bakugou and the introduction of Aizawa.
So, wait, this is the next two arcs. Are we doing it by volume, or?
Not really. I wasn't really going to be doing this by volume, but since both arcs are relatively insanely short, I just put them. I just put them together as a lot of people consider them the same arc, since it's literally them in UA.
So, where does the second arc end, or I guess I should say the third arc?
I think it ends right after Deku versus Bakugou and right before USJ, with with Deku confronting Bakugou after his loss.
Yeah, if not bottom B tier, definitely very top of C tier. I mean, I know it's not like necessarily one of the best fights in anime, but I still really like that first fight with Deku and Bakugou because it does such a great job of launching their dynamic where Deku now has to like fill the shoes he's in of like being All Might's successor, but then Bakugou now has to understand that he's not necessarily the only person that can be a great hero, and he now needs to start giving everyone else their due respect.
Exactly. That is honestly the only real thing that really helps make this arc enjoyable. And even rereading it, I still like those very moments. Rereading and rewatching, those moments are still really good. Even with like a knowledge of current events, it just makes it stick out that much harder.
Right.
So yeah, top of C tier for basically the training arc. Next up, the arc that basically helped skyrocket MHA into popularity, especially when its anime came out, the attack on the USJ. And I think we can both agree this is more or less a B tier arc.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I think it's like thematically it's on par with the one we just talked about, but also it's just got so much more going for it. I mean, you've got the villains, you've got like Aizawa showing off how much of a badass he can be when he wants to.
And All Might versus Nomu.
All Might versus Nomu, which is actually a really good fight, even in retrospect, because it shows how All Might isn't just defined by his quirk. And then also we get the other pro hero teachers.
Yeah, so this another thing that this really does help with. It gives us a bit more spotlight with some of the 1A members, like Kirishima with Bakugou, Momo's group with Kaminari and Jiro. We also get some good dynamics with the students around 13 and Kurogiri when they fight him, as well as a good moment with Ida having to leave to go and get the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is honestly a really good arc. Even when it comes to rereading or rewatching it, it's still a hell of a fun time, and it really does. I can't speak today. does a lot of good setup in terms of where Shigaraki is at right now, and the idea of the League of Villains being introduced.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely a B tier arc for me. And I think a lot of people... So. I would have brought it higher, but I think it could have had a bit more stuff when it came to 1A. If it had more moments with other 1A members, then it probably would have been A tier for me.
I will say, now that you bring it up, it's also kind of the launching point for the whole Bakugou Kirishima dynamic, which is one of my favorite.
Oh yeah, that is. Yeah, I think that's everyone's favorite dynamic from the series. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, this is a good starting point with a lot of different dynamics, which is what makes it also one of the important arcs of the series.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, B tier for the USJ arc. And next up, we're getting into Season 2 territory with the Sports Festival arc. And I believe this is, between A and S tier. I'm thinking top of A or bottom S.
For now, definitely A tier. This arc has a ton going for it. I know it's kind of a divisive take, but I personally think this is an example of tournaments done right, because the important fights are a bit longer, and the less important fights are just to the point, like short and to
Yes.
the point. And there's also like just a ton of great moments.
Very true. Very true, and it also helps us give us. It also starts off everything with the Todoroki family and Shoto's character development, and fully introduces
That's
us
true.
to Endeavor.
Which I'll just, for the sake of context, probably my favorite aspect of My Hero Academia is the Todorokis. Like, they're just such a great way to reflect hero society because there's just so many elements to the family, and this is just like the tip of the iceberg with that.
Yeah, very true, and it is nice seeing not just Shoto's development throughout the series, but also eventually Endeavor's and the whole dynamic with the family later on. And this was just a great start-off point to have this on the back of our minds.
We also get the Bakugou Uraka fight. I always butcher her name.
No, you said it. I think you said it right.
Yeah, just the pronunciation. I really like that fight. Mainly because people always say that Bakugou is just a meathead. Bakugou was the only person who treated Uraka as someone worth fighting. Like,
yeah.
After the fight, they're like, how could you beat someone up that's so weak? And he literally goes, I didn't see anyone that was weak. And it's such a good moment.
Yeah, and it also helps break, and at this moment, it basically helps break the stigma of shonen titles with their main heroines being, borderline useless or just stuck on support for the entire time, not seeing any action.
Yes and no. I mean, this is probably one of her better moments. I wouldn't necessarily say it like completely.
Oh no, not completely. It just in general.
Oh no, for sure.
Puts her on a different level than most others of some of the earlier shonen heroines from like the main group of characters.
Sure. No, I see what you mean.
Yeah, we're just glad that she's not another Sakura. Yeah, that meme's never gonna get old.
Yeah, but, no, never.
But another thing that I really did enjoy was also the introduction of Shinzo. His quirk was honestly really great, and I liked how Deku can more or less relate to him, even though he himself did not have a quirk. Shinzo was basically talked out of being was trying to be talked out of being a hero with the fact that his quirk isn't like super flashy and is more something like a villain's type of quirk, as well as the fact that he was stuck in general studies due to how the entrance exam favored more physical abilities.
Yeah, Shinzo's an interesting character. Like, he really did put Deku in a bit of a bind, because Shinzo like was born with a quirk, and like admittedly it was kind of a crappy quirk. So he did call Deku out, and he was like, "Dude, come on! I wish I had a quirk like yours." Like, and by all means, he deserved to win that fight. So it was an interesting fight to see how Deku reacted to it.
Yeah, I think there were two reasons why he needed Deku to win. One, to help introduce the idea of the vestiges of One for All, as well.
Yeah, right.
As well as having Deku fight off against Todoroki to help get him in order to use his fire side in a fight, so he wouldn't reject his power, and give that powerful speech about how, Shoto's quirk is his, not his father's, in order to help start that development to break out of his father's shadow and let go of all that hate.
Yeah, right. That's a really good point. And I like that you brought up the quote from Deku with Todoroki, because that's such a cool scene.
Yeah. Plus I also hear that some people actually got inspired from that also.
I totally believe that, because one, I think it's a great moment for Todoroki and the whole Todoroki plot line, but also I think it's a good reflection of My Hero as a whole, because so much of it is like people being defined by the quirks they're born with, but here Deku is like, no, it's your quirk, not like your father's quirk. Like, you decide what you do with it.
Yep, that it is one thing I do like about a lot of the newer shonen. They do have a way with trying to get their messages across a lot sooner in their stories than either later down the road or have it like smack dab in your face for the whole time.
Right.
But I think we said more or less everything for this arc. It was other stuff I did like to see was the introduction of 1B, and also see like a type of rivalry that would end up being shown from those characters, and even giving us more 1A moments.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, other than that, a pretty great arc, and honestly, like you said earlier, one of the tournament arc done really good, done right. So yeah, A tier. Next up, I think every My Hero fan can agree with this. The Hero Killer Stain arc is an S tier arc.
Huh. Would you care to explain why S and not A?
Yeah. Oh wait, hold on. Yeah. I think for one, aside from, even though it's an incredibly short arc, everything considered, it helps give us the idea of the cracks in hero society and introduces us to a character that, if this kind of world was real, someone who would just have the ideology of trying to get rid of all fake heroes and showing the hypocrisy of a lot of heroes, just becoming heroes for fame and money, which was actually something introduced to us right at the start of this arc back in the sports festival, with Uraka basically becoming a hero to get cash, even though it was for her family. There is an idea of people just abusing the system just so they can get fame and fortune, and the idea of having Stain here to try actually bring fear and try and take back the name of hero was honestly really good. It also gave us some actual character development for Ida in this sense, considering that he lost his idol and his brother, and was then led down a path of revenge, which he then had to get scolded by said hero killer that he wasn't really acting like a hero. And then we get our first real fight with Deku, Ida, and Todoroki against a real-life villain without any help from the pros, and having them win in the end. Not to mention that Stain's ideology is honestly incredibly important for the story going forward, due to how impactful that this one person was in the development of other villains, and how the league inevitably grows from Stain's capture.
Yeah, you make a lot of really good points. Personally, for me, it's like a question of, do I think it's top A tier or lower S tier? I'll give it S tier for now. You make a lot of really good points. It does a great job of beginning all those questions of society and hero society, and how it was so vulnerable, I guess, that someone as crazy as Stain could break it, or at least be the catalyst.
Yeah. So for now, we agree for S tier, right?
Yeah, I'll agree for now.
All right. So yeah, really important arc. Showed some great moments and introduced, honestly, a fan favorite villain.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, due to how short this really was, the only other thing of note was Deku actually managing to get a handle on One for All and developing full cowling.
Yeah, trying to think. I don't know. Stain's just a cool villain in general.
Yeah,
that moment right before he passes out, where everyone freezes. That is such a cool moment.
Yeah, whether watching it or reading it, you really get you really feel the tension in the air.
I don't remember. If I remember correctly, the panel in the manga when his face mask falls off is especially creepy. If I remember correctly, it's real up close.
Yeah, that was a good sign of showing how Horikoshi's artwork was getting into the more. How whenever a scene gets a little disturbing, how it becomes more detailed and creepy, which we get to see a bit more of in some of the later one of the later arcs. But yeah, for now, S tier for the Hero Killer Stain arc.
Sounds good.
And last for season 2 will be the final exam arc, which I'd say probably bottom B tier. Actually, somewhere in B tier, I'd have to say. It gave us some good moments with 1A with their development. Had Deku and Bakugou team up to fight All Might and trying to put their issues aside to work together to pass. Momo got some really good development and we also got to see how a lot of the teachers basically fought. And I don't know, it was just an interesting arc. It was just an interesting arc altogether. It was really fun, and a lot of the more important moments pretty much boosted up to B tier for me.
Yeah, I think B tier is pretty fair. I mean, there's a lot of good points in some of the fights. Like, there's a lot of interesting character growth. But, I don't know, for the most part, it's sort of just, like, okay for me. Like, some of the fights are kind of, like, cookie cutter, while some of them are more interesting to watch.
The one thing that I noticed while I reread the manga is the fact that the anime actually shows and expands like all the fights. It gives us some extra tidbits in order to make them a bit more watchable and to pad out the finale at the end of the season. But
one thing that reorganizes them. Go ahead.
Yeah, and have them all like done like one at a time instead of all at once.
Right.
Which I think was one of the more frustrating things while actually reading it, because you kept jumping back and forth a lot. Which, I mean, you get used to stuff like this in like One Piece, but I think it's done a little better in that series.
Yeah, I will say, one of my personal favorite moments that comes to mind is Momo sort of coming to terms with herself, because after she lost in the tournament, she was feeling really, I guess, self-conscious, but this is where you sort of see her do a 360, and so now she's in the position of, okay, maybe I'm not necessarily the smartest, but I'm clearly smart, and I just have to, have a little more confidence in myself.
Yeah, exactly. Not to mention the one thing that really helped this arc get at least to the upper B tier for me personally was at the very end with Deku and Shigaraki's meeting at the mall, and Shigaraki, getting his resolve and answer when he decides to basically use Stain's ideology to help build up the League of Villains. And that one moment where Shigaraki is smiling at Deku is just super creepy.
Oh, it's so creepy, especially the manga, because he draws like every single like wrinkle you can imagine.
Yeah. But yeah, all that said and done, very solid B tier for this arc. If it was like a bit more organized and some of the moments felt, if they gave like a lot more like big moments for the rest of 1A, then it probably would have been an A tier arc for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's everything for season 2. Now on to season 3 with the Forced Training Camp arc. And this one, I'm not sure, because while the training camp portion was okay, the thing that I think everyone remembers about it is the attack from the League of Villains, and this would honestly have to be like a top B or somewhere or bottom A tier for me. Because I love the action, I love Deku versus Muscular. I like the fact that they have to try and protect Bakugou from the villains from abducting him, and how it is basically an arc where despite capturing a bunch of villains, they still more or less lost in the end. And it was just nice getting a nice introduction to a lot of the League of Villains mainstays that we get to see more often, as well as showing a bit more development from Shigaraki with how he's just sending in a small group of people to do what he says instead of just throwing all his cards on one table. And he's like, we might not win this, but we can actually get something done, showing his development as a leader.
I think top of B tier is fair. I think it's like an okay arc. It doesn't, like, this particular arc, obviously the arc right after it with One for All, or All for One hits hard, but this particular arc doesn't have, it didn't, at least for me, it doesn't have a huge impact. I will say it's really fun. We get to meet the villains. We get to see the kids, like, just, at least in the beginning, like, more casual, just sort of, like, screwing around, because, like, oh, it's summer camp. We get to see them team up. Also, the super underrated, we get to meet hold on one second. we get to meet the Wild Pussycats, one of my favorite hero groups in all of My Hero, and I think they're hilarious.
Yeah, I really like those characters when we're getting introduced to them, and even later, and even when they like show up a bit more down the road, they're just really cool, really fun characters to see.
Yeah, for sure.
And Tiger's is just funny and badass at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, top of B tier is pretty fair. While it did have a lot of nice action-packed moments, and the 1,000,000% smash from Deku was honestly incredibly iconic, it was more or less not the best arc in the series. With how a lot of the training stuff just felt a bit, I don't know, padded out a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, top of B tier. The thing that really puts it all the way at the top is how they implemented the League, and how it ended with Bakugou's capture, naturally leading into the very next arc.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a good segue, because now we're moving on to the... I forget what this arc is called. It's called the All for One arc or the Camino Raid arc.
I think it's the Kamina arc, however you say it.
Camino Raid?
Yeah,
right.
I believe
Yeah.
that's the correct.
Alright, so I say this is... I think this is like an A tier to bottom S tier arc. Because while the fight between All Might and All for One is just amazing, I feel like I do feel like there could have been a lot more stuff with some of the other heroes fighting All for One in this instance. They could have done something where All for One fights a bunch of a few of the heroes at the factory, and we actually get to saw like that actual fight instead of it just being cut to him just destroying them in an instant, or the aftermath, and then All Might showing up right after All for One saves the League. But overall, this is honestly like one of the series' fan favorites, and I can personally agree. I do like how All Might basically used up the very last of his strength in this fight, and how he has to retire afterwards, and the ramifications are still felt throughout the series.
I would say top of A tier. Everything you pointed out, there's a lot of good things going for it. I think the one thing keeping it from S tier for me is the, I guess, fight between All Might and All for One. Mainly because, like, in retrospect, it's easy to see that it wasn't necessarily meant to be a fight.
More
but
like
at the same time, like, it's like you kind of wanted, like, a fight.
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
It would have been nice.
Yeah. Plus, I think All Might was already more or less at his limits by the time the fight was getting underway.
Right.
So,
which makes sense.
Yeah. Though the United States of Smash is still a really great moment to see. But let's see. Anything else you want to add?
Let's see. Off the top of my head, not really. No, I guess it's no, nothing major.
The only thing that I could say that I also liked about this arc was when All for One was on screen in the aftermath. I liked how the kid basically envisioned their own deaths from All for One's presence alone.
Right, yeah.
Just to show how out of their league they are.
Yeah, that was really cool.
But yeah, top of A tier for obvious reasons. Could have done a bit more. Mm-hmm. The fight could have been a lot more action oriented, and it could have been an S tier arc.
Right.
Alright, so now we're moving on to the end of Season 3 with the Revisional Licensing Exam arc. I'm thinking C tier for this one. I think mid C. A bit better than
say. Go ahead.
No, I think it did a lot more than the introductory arc, but the second and third arc of the series, but the training arc was from right after that was honestly a lot better. It just felt a bit better.
I would say D tier, only because like it's not like it contributes nothing, but also like even watching the anime, like for me personally, it's just painfully boring. Like, the whole entrance exam is just painfully boring.
Yeah, the only thing
Like,
I
I
liked,
get it. Go ahead.
no, the only thing I really liked about it was how, in the end, I mean, while it showed like a lot of the upgrades to the kids' suits and their powers with their ultimate moves and stuff like that, the thing I really did like was the very ending, the end fight to cap off the season with Deku versus Bakugou round 2. That's what really
Oh,
bumped
that's
this up for
true.
me.
I'm
It would definitely
forgetting that.
It would definitely be a D tier arc for me if it wasn't for that fight.
You know what? Yeah, where you have it is fair then, but only because of that fight. Because
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite fights.
Yeah, that's a fan favorite for everyone. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, like you said, not too much really happens for this arc in general. It was just mainly as to showcase some of the kids' improvements and then lead into the fight between Deku and Bakugou.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and another thing that I really liked is that technically at the end of this arc we got the introduction to the Big Three and the ideas of work studies.
Oh, that's true.
And fan favorite character Muriel Togata, if I pronounced that right.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, his intro is so funny. Like the bit where like his clothes are falling off if he doesn't wear his costume. That is so funny.
Yeah, and then started everyone insulting Deku as a protagonist, being like Muriel should have inherited One for All and stuff like that, which is true, but it makes the story way more interesting because Togata, now looking at the story at this point, Togata would just be like unstoppable.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, mid C tier is honestly the best we could do for this arc, despite some of the nice moments at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, shall we move on to season 4?
Let's do it.
All right, the Overhaul Arc or the Chihei Hasakai Arc. S tier. While at this point the second longest arc in the series, it introduces a lot of nice ideas, as well as introducing us to Overhaul, who is honestly at that point one of the scariest villains out there, who can basically kill you in a touch, aside from Shigaraki, and how he basically in the palm of his hands, with the help of Eri and her rewind quirk, was able to develop the quirk of erasing bullets, so that he could basically erase quirks altogether and try and create a cure for that as well, in order to have the palms of heroes and villains in his hand, so he can control everything. And then at the end, with us getting, Muriel losing his quirk, and the fight with Deku getting infinite 100%.
Yeah, this is easy S tier for me. Like, arguably one of the best arcs in My Hero. I would be here all day if I talked about everything, so I'll just list it off. Sun Eater fight, the Kirishima fight,
Muriel fight,
although the anime didn't do that proper justice.
I do think they did the best they could, because I've been rereading the manga at this point, and I just got up to volume 18, which is right after the fight with Muriel and Overhaul. The manga just had one black panel and it just shifted to Muriel to the end of the fight. At least the anime did some sort of effort with showing us like the rest, clips of that fight.
Yeah.
While they could have done a lot better in the anime, it still served its purpose.
It's not that it's terrible. It's just that it's such an important moment, and then when you watch it, it's like literally just like
a slideshow.
Cuts. Like it's just a PowerPoint.
Yeah. But yeah, what else?
The great parallels with Deku and Mirio and
Night Eye.
Well, Deku and Mirio and Shiggy and Overhaul, where like in both cases one should clearly be like the better, Overhaul should clearly be like the better villain, and Mirio should clearly be like the better hero. Yet here we are, like Deku is set up to be like the greatest hero, and Shiggy is like succeeding all for one. So it's just interesting to see that comparison. But that's everything from me. Easy S tier.
Yeah, and one more thing I do want to add, since you mentioned Shiggy, is the fact that this was honestly the arc that really helped show how much he's grown as a leader. With the death of Magne, who we were only recently introduced to in the very last season, dying at the very start of this arc, and then having Toga and Twice go in to get their revenge in a way, but telling them to do whatever it is they are instead of just ordering them to cause havoc, so that Overhaul and his minions won't know anything, because he noticed previously that one of the guys made him, I think it was him or someone else, answer their question without much of a fight, and then he planned to have Toga and Twice basically lead the heroes to take down the Chie Hasaikai, and then take Overhaul's hands away from him as a sort of revenge for Magne and Compress losing his arm.
Yeah, right. And also, real quick, I don't want to go too much on it because we do need to move on at some point.
Yeah.
It's also the first arc where characters start dying. Like, for the most part, I don't think anybody died up to this point.
Aside from Night Eye.
Well, yeah, that too. This is where, for lack of better terms, this is where stuff starts falling apart and characters start dying.
Yeah. But yeah, everything we just mentioned is honestly is this arc's strong suits, and it's an S tier arc for a reason. Even though there are people that complain that it is kind of long, the length is more or less necessary to get the message across of how this arc is supposed to work.
It's really not that long. I mean, how many chapters is it?
Overall, let's see. It's half of volume 14, and it's 15, 16, 17. It's like 4.5 volumes long, so nearly 50 chapters.
Oh my god, that is nothing.
Compared to a lot of other shonen arcs, yes, but a lot of people are newer to shonen series when they jump onto a manga of a more recent title. So it's nothing compared to the likes of One Piece's major arcs.
I suppose.
Yeah. But regardless, really good arc. Length was honestly not as bad as some people lay it out to be. But, yeah, all things considered, it's honestly really good. Alright, let's move on to the Sports Festival arc. I say top of A tier. Very close to S for me.
Do you have anything you want to say, or do you want me to hop in?
Oh no! I was asking to see if you is there any kind of ranking you would put it in aside from A tier?
I would give this S tier, above Stain, below Overhaul. I know people complain about the more casual arcs. I don't know what your complaint is with that. I love when these series do that because it's a great opportunity to explore the characters just being normal, just being people.
Yeah, and it was nice for development for people like Jiro also. Giving her her own
two other things I want to point out. I love the concert. I think I said this. Go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you. The concert was great, primarily when it was adapted into the anime. Good song. You like the choreography and how they adapted from literally that 1-2 page spread in the manga.
Yeah, I also really like it. It's embodied in the song Hero too. The idea that this is what My Hero is about. The idea that a hero isn't just somebody who beats up villains. It's somebody who makes a change in the world. And that's kind of what we get in the flashback with Jiro and her parents and her whole conflict with her thinking she needs to choose between her music and being a hero when she finds out you can do both. And then also I really like Gentle. Yeah, because Gentle's a great example of how the definitions of hero and villain are mixed. Because like I just said, a hero is somebody who makes a change in someone's life, and we see Gentle making a huge change in La Brava's life. So it's like kind of funny. You can't really call him a villain, but yet, according to the laws of My Hero, he is a villain.
Yeah.
But I think it's an S tier arc, and I think it's criminally underrated.
Yeah, very true. In all honesty, you did kind of convince me otherwise. Plus, I do like that Deku and Gento do have some kind of duality, because Gento, while he did have a quirk, he had a dream of being a hero, but he more or less flunked out of any entrance exams. And then, due to a string of unfortunate events, his life was on a downward spiral until like he started like his channel, and then he got Labrava to join him, and that whole relationship is just wholesome as hell.
For sure.
But yeah, you're right. This is more or less an S tier arc. Plus, the introduction of how Eri basically gets her smile back is just adorable, and honestly really brings anyone a smile to their face.
Mm-hmm.
So, not to mention the action scene at the end with Deku versus Gento is honestly really good also.
Yeah, it's really good too.
Well, let's leave it at S tier. Everything that we just said really does make it an S tier arc.
Again, it is criminally underrated.
Yeah, very true. I honestly feel embarrassed putting it as an A tier arc.
Nah, it's understandable, friend. We've all done it once or twice.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on, because gotta make sure this doesn't last 2 hours.
Yeah.
We got upside. We only got 5 arcs left to talk about.
All right.
So next up we have the Pro Hero arc, which really good arc. I'd say I honestly don't know whether to put it as an S tier or at the very top of A tier, even though it's just like Stain's arc, pretty short. So much happens in it that really gives us a lot of good moments, whether it's the introduction to Hawks, the billboard system, Endeavor basically showing us his resolve to become a better hero, and the fight against the first high-end Nomu. You know what? I basically talked myself into it. I'm thinking this is an S tier arc.
Yeah, I would say either top A or lower S. It's got around the same impact as the Stain arc. Personally, I like it better than the Stain arc just because of the Endeavor scene with the Nomu, the talking Nomu.
Prominence burn.
Oh my god. I know not everyone loves his voice actor, his Seiyu, but oh my god. Like when he shouts prominence burn. Ugh! I lost it.
That was really great. I was so happy with how the anime adapted it. And it is kind of a shame that due to the amount of episodes, if like every first episode of a season wasn't a recap episode, this whole arc would have been adapted in the anime's last 2-3 episodes.
Yeah, right.
Because they didn't adapt the ending portion of this arc.
What was the very ending that they missed?
The meeting with Dabi basically seeing Endeavor face to face and retrieving the high end, Hawks and Dabi's meeting.
Oh yeah.
And like the full introduction of Deku meeting the vestiges in the world of One for All.
Yeah, because all they really did after that was tease the vestiges. You're right.
Yeah, that was really it. Which it does kind of suck. Hopefully, I mean, we know for sure that the first episode of Season 5 is going to be a recap arc, but I'm hoping that with how everything plays out for Season 6 particularly, I do hope that that with all the stuff that happens in the War Arc that we're going to talk about at the end of this video, that it is adapted fully, and with how long it is, I doubt we'll have like a whole recap episode. Unless they decide to go over to 25 episodes.
Right.
But, you know what? Let's put this in S and move Stain down to top of A.
I think that's fair. I mean, we both agree that the Stain arc is really good, but I think this is fair.
Yeah. So yeah, Pro Hero arc, really great arc. I love how this is pushing Endeavor to try and be better. And I like how he got like a permanent scar on the left side of his face, which is also the same side that Shoto got a scar from his mother's boiling water from when he was a child.
Is it?
Yeah, it's the exact same side.
I completely overlook that. I thought because there's a panel, I think when they fight Dabi in the more recent arc, I could have sworn it was opposite, but I could have tricked myself.
It's very possible, but yeah, all things considered, S tier arc, and a good way to end off.
Sure.
And more or less a good way to end off season 4. Next up, the 1A versus 1B training arc. It does have an important segment towards the end, and with Shinzo's reintroduction, but I'd say this is more or less a B tier arc. It shows a lot of good moments, showing us that 1B has its own wide variety of pretty good quirk users. Gives us a bit more information on Monama's copy quirk. Tells us that Eri is that we might end up getting to get some training with Eri's quirk. And like I said, and Shinzo's reintroduction and how he is basically being personally trained by Aizawa to fight and using his quirk in new creative ways. And at the very end with Deku learning more about One for All.
This is tough for me because I don't know. Maybe my opinion might change on a reread or when I watch it in the anime. I feel like the anime will make it so much more enjoyable. But I don't know. I feel like maybe bottom A tier. I think the biggest criticism is that it's kind of just like basic. Like I don't know how else to say it. Like, the pacing wasn't terrible in the manga necessarily, but at the same time, like, as fun as it is, it's kind of just like, eh.
Very true, but yeah, this is more or less a B tier arc for me. It's got a lot of good moments.
I can respect that.
And the one thing that I really like, aside from the Shinzo and Deku stuff with One for All, was Bakugou's absolute victory round in this arc, showing his actual growth after his fight with Deku.
Hey man, you don't mess with Bakugou.
Oh yeah, especially when it gets serious. Yeah. But yeah, honestly, a really enjoyable arc, and I do think this is a pretty decent arc to start off season 5 at. Nothing too crazy until towards the end. But yeah, it's good with giving us more time with 1B and showing us their variety of quirks, because aside from a few like Kendo, Tetsu, Monoma, the Vine Girl, we didn't get to see any of their quirks in action. So it was nice to see all of 1B in action. And some of their quirks are honestly, and a lot of their quirks are honestly pretty damn good also.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, B tier. Moving on to the arc that everyone cannot wait to be adapted in the next season is My Villain Academia, and this is top of S tier, just a little bit better than the Overhaul Arc for me.
S tier, no question. I'm not even going to get into it. It would be disrespectful for me to even speak of it, because my mortal words can't put into existence like just how good this arc is. Like, it's S tier. It's undeniable. If you disagree, you didn't read it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm just gonna to get this done quickly, because honestly, this is such a great arc that I don't want to do any like full-fledged spoilers for it. I'm just gonna give the general rundown of what I loved about this arc. For one, the reveal of the Doctor and the Nomu Factory, the battle between the League and Makia, Shigaraki trying to learn to become more of a leader and earn Gigantomakia's trust, the introduction of the Meta Liberation Army, which is actually been alluded to since Gentle's arc, since Gentle Criminal's arc, especially, and the book I think was shown at the very end of season 4, I believe. And I liked
the Meta Liberation book.
Yeah.
Was it?
I believe so, because I do know that Gentle Criminal mentioned the villain Destro and the Meta Liberation Army when he was talking about famous villains like Stain, All for One, and a Thief.
I did not remember that.
Yeah, I actually saw. Yeah, I was actually reminded of this. I saw a video. I ended up seeing a video about it, and it was like, I cannot believe that slipped my mind. But yeah, in all honesty, this was honestly a really great arc. It was great. It gave us nice backstory for Toga, Shigaraki's full backstory, which is epic and sad also, and a little twisted. Some good development for good development for Twice as well. Showing us the idea of quirk awakenings, and again how the Meta Liberation Front is a thing. The Liberation Army is a thing because there are people in this world that do not want to keep their quirks restrained for societal reasons, and the only reason for them to get their quirks would have to be if the particular job set needs them to use it, or to be a hero. Otherwise, they can use their quirks freely.
Right.
And yeah, that's actually something that you would come across in a world where superpowers and being a superhero are commonplace.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's not much else I want to say about this arc because this is honestly going to be the highlight of Season 5. So anyone that that hasn't read this arc yet, which honestly I did say spoilers at the beginning of this video, so if you're still here, then good to you. But yeah, I don't want to spoil this too much because I have a feeling that the anime might expand upon a few things, or maybe make a lot of the fights a bit more like climactic in a way, especially the ending fight. I see that happening.
Mm.
But yeah, S tier all the way for this. Best arc in My Hero Academia at that point. And next, second to last, which would be the final arc of Season 5, the Endeavor Agency arc. I would say
A tier.
A tier, right?
Yeah.
I say probably around the same wavelength as the Stain arc. I would say. Go ahead. Sorry. I'd say around the same for me with the Stain arc, but it does have some moments that put it above it. Considering that we actually get to see Endeavor be a real mentor to basically the three main characters of 1A. Him giving his own advice on what they should do. Everyone's introduction to Hawks again, and him basically leading Endeavor on like clues on the Meta Liberation Army. And then we get more insight into the Todoroki family.
Yeah, I think the only thing holding this back from S tier is that it's sort of in a sense, it's a more laid back arc. It's sort of setting things up for the next one. But I mean, I would say this is
one of the better ones.
Well, it's
one of the better laid back arcs.
It's like peak, like Todoroki time. Like I ate everything up about the Todorokis, but in all seriousness, like it is probably the funniest arc. I mean, you have like basically like a sitcom episode when they go to the Todoroki, like the chapter before when they're like, "Oh, hey, do you guys want to come over for dinner?" I'm like, so it's gonna be a sitcom and there's gonna be a laugh track, right? Like this is hilarious.
Yeah.
Then you have just like the Deku, Bakugou, Shoto trio and their dynamic, which is hilarious. You have Deku like with like a Hunter x Hunter panel where he just like explains the crap out of his quirk to Endeavor, and Bakugou is like, dude, shut up. And then, oh my god, the Christmas party is so funny. I mean, you have Christmas Eri
Trick or
where
treat.
she's like she messed it up. I forget what she said, but she was like...
I think she was like trick or treat as like a question, and that was like wrong holiday.
We also get Christmas Eri, which, oh my god, that was... it was so funny. Like, I forget, I think she said something like trick or treat when she walked in, and Aiza was like, no, you have the wrong holiday.
Exactly. That was honestly like really hilarious, and it was just adorable to see, because I think this is like Eri's first Christmas, and it's nice to see her actually enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it was.
Considering she was stuck with Overhaul the whole time.
But yeah, it's honestly like probably the funniest arc.
Yeah. But and the whole ending thing with like the villain called Ending was pretty good also. We got like another idea of Toya Todoroki with an actual image of him.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
But yeah, overall, like you said, this is a pretty funny arc. It was the Todoroki stuff was honestly what really pulled this whole thing together, and made it so enjoyable, and just a nice comedic. Anything comedic involving the main trio right here. But yeah, all in all, A-tier arc.
Yeah, for sure.
And finally, and don't let the rest of the stuff on the screen fool you, because for some reason I got doubles of everything. We have the current arc that actually just finished like a few weeks ago, which is the MHA War Arc. I don't know if people gave it an official name yet, but for now it's just the War Arc.
Mm-hmm.
And this has got to be S tier for me. I almost said A tier. This is S tier. This is honestly, at this point, just like My Villain Academia, the best arc in MHA. Longer than the Overhaul Arc, and it's given so many great moments to not just the students, but also to the villains and pro heroes alike. It gave equal amount of screen time to every important character, and I think the pacing was just really great. Even the action and paneling was honestly a step above all the other arcs.
All I have to say, I completely agree. Do we think it's better than My Villain, or do we think it's like right under My Villain?
I honestly not entirely sure. I'd put it on the same wavelength as My Villain, but I think the thing that makes My Villain a little bit better is the character, how we got a lot of main focus on the villains and their own developments and stuff like that. The War Arc is just more or less a combination of everything that's happened in the story since the very beginning, which is what makes it so good.
I would say the way we have it right now is good, because they're both really hype, and we get a lot of great character moments in both, especially Hawks. Like, all the Hawks moments are really, really cool. But also the Dobby reveal was really good. But the one thing I think giving My Villain the edge is that it wraps up better. Like, I think the one criticism of the War Arc that everyone would agree is like is the way it ended. Not that it was necessarily bad, but it kind of just like felt off.
Had a weird end. The way it ended was a little weird.
Yeah,
with everything that's set up.
Whereas
I agree on
My
that.
Villain, like My Villain, like the way it ended, you're just like, nope, totally satisfied.
Yeah, very true. I agree with you on that. But yeah, in all honesty, both these two arcs are honestly the best arcs in the entire series. Even Overhaul. Honestly, these 5 were some of the best arcs in My Hero. And considering that these are like the 5 of the most recent arcs in the series, it just goes to show how much Horikoshi improved on his writing and characterizations from the beginning, and what he actually had planned for a lot of these characters and events.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I would love to get straight into the War Arc. If anything, I could leave that for like a full-on like review, talking about everything about that War Arc. But for now, really great arc, and I can't wait to see this animated in like 2022.
Oh, it will be so hype, especially. Although it'll be interesting how they do the Machia scenes, because I feel like if MHA ever did CGI, that would be the time to do it. I kind of hope that's not the case.
I mean, if they do it right, it would work. I mean, you've seen Attack on Titan's final season. The CGI was honestly pretty good.
Yeah, but I mean, that's Mappa. I don't think...
True.
Have we ever seen Bones do CGI?
I don't remember. I'm
not dissing it right away. I just...
No.
Whenever we do CGI, we tread thin ice.
I mean, they already like animated Machia in 2D already. They would just have to put a little more effort in animating his scenes. That's really it.
Yeah, for sure.
What I was considering before we started this arc, this whole tier list, was whether or not I should include the Vigilantes arcs in this, but that's like something for an entirely different video because I'm pretty sure a lot of people might not have read Vigilantes.
Yeah, also, it's like there's a big disparity in like how relevant some of the arcs are. Like some of them are literally just like them like setting up a concert, and then like there's the one flashback arc which like I'm still pissed it's even in Vigilantes. Like it should like to quote my friend
flashback arc.
To quote my dear friend Senku here, it should 10 billion% be in like the canon story. Like it has no business being in Vigilantes.
It was the Aizawa one, right?
That one, yeah.
Yeah, Though I think it's very possible Horikoshi wrote that arc, but wanted to put that in there. But it's very possible a lot of people wanted him to, editors and stuff like that, maybe he wanted to get into the war arc right away. So we probably left fair. That off on the side for Vigilantes.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Maybe that could instead of like being a thing for the Vigilantes anime, it could be a movie and it like a flashback movie, for all we know.
Yeah, maybe like an OVA.
Or an OVA, yeah. But with everything that's just been said, this should be the final bracket system, and in all honesty, nothing's really in D tier for My Hero Academia. The closest thing would have to be like the first one, but I think it has enough going for it that it isn't a D tier arc. Just barely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only arc that maybe could go in D tier, like I said, is the provisional exam, but because it has the Deku Bakugou fight, like it just misses. Like it just made C tier.
And the introduction of the big three.
Yep, that's also true.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, this is the final bracket for the My Hero Academia manga arcs. I hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out... I cannot speak today. Wow. Go check out Ouji's channel. It's Shonen Ouji. I'll leave a link in the description below. He does a lot of great videos, so give him a shout out. And he's getting very close to reaching the 1,000 subscriber mark. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel also. If you want me to do some more tier list videos, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want updates on future videos and to let me know that you like this type of content. And with all that said and done, I hope you guys have an awesome day.